The following article is a broad timeline of the course of events surrounding the storming of the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, by rioters supporting United States President Donald Trump's attempts to overturn his defeat in the 2020 presidential election. Pro-Trump rioters stormed the United States Capitol after assembling on the ellipse of the Capitol complex for the Save America March. Following the rally, President Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Rudy Giuliani, and several Republican members of Congress addressed the crowd, repeating unfounded claims of electoral fraud affecting the 2020 election outcome and encouraging supporters to fight like hell to take back our country and suggesting a march towards the Capitol, promising he would be with them. The demonstrations turned violent when attendees breached multiple police perimeters and occupied, vandalized, and ransacked parts of the building for several hours. 5 people died over the course of the events. 1 was fatally shot by a Capitol police officer, 2 died of heart conditions, and another died of an amphetamine intoxication. Capitol Police Officer Brian D. Sicknick died the day after from natural causes. All time specified or approximated given in Eastern Time, or UTC 5:00. Preceding events. 2020 November 9, Oath Keepers member Jessica Watkins sends text messages inviting people to the Oath Keepers basic training in Ohio. One message says, "I need you fighting fit by inauguration." Sick. Trump fires Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and replaces him with Christopher C. Miller as acting secretary. November 14, over 10,000 people gather in Freedom Plaza for the Million MAGA March in support of Trump's election fraud claims. Speakers include Alex Jones and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trump circles Freedom Plaza in his motorcade. Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and 3%ers are in attendance. Proud Boys skirmish with counter-protesters throughout the day. At least 20 people are arrested and 2 D.C. police officers are injured. That evening, Trump praises his supporters who fought with counter-protesters. Near midnight, a massive Trump Law and Order banner is laid atop Black Lives Matter Plaza, then moved close to the White House. November 21, Women for America First files a permit application for a rally at the Lincoln Memorial on December 12. The group's original application for a rally in Freedom Plaza was denied because of inauguration preparations. December 7, the Arizona Republican Party asks supporters whether they are willing to give their lives fighting over the election results. December 8, General Mike Flynn receives presidential pardon. He would later participate in the D.C. events on January 5. December 12, Proud Boys march through Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., in advance of the pro-Trump rally scheduled later in the day. Pro-Trump rallies in Washington, D.C., attract thousands of Trump supporters protesting the election results, including numerous Proud Boys. Speakers include Michael Flynn, Sebastian Gorka, Alex Jones, podcaster David Harris Jr., Nick Fuentes, Mike Lindell, and Oath Keepers leader Stuart Rhodes. Jones says, "Joe Biden is a globalist, and Joe Biden will be removed one way or another." Harris says that if there were a civil war, we're the ones with all the guns. Fuentes gets the crowd to chant, "Destroy the GOP. Destroy the GOP." Flynn tells the crowd that he is certain that Trump will be the next president. Rhodes calls on Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act, and warns that not doing so would lead to a much more bloody war. Trump flies over the crowd several times in Marine One and tweets his appreciation for their support. Violent clashes throughout the day between Proud Boys and counter-protesters lead to 33 arrests, including for assault on a police officer. That night, Proud Boy members vandalize 4 churches and burn a Black Lives Matter banner. December 14, Biden wins the Electoral College vote. Trump electors for Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all of which Biden won in the election, cast purported electoral votes for Trump. The votes cast by the pro-Trump alternate electors have no legal standing. The pro-Trump groups in 5 states sent their fake electoral votes to the National Archives, but the National Archives did not forward these to Congress, because under the Electoral Count Act, only slates certified by the states are forwarded to Congress. One America News releases a video about Trump's re-election efforts with a voiceover stating, "Supporters of President Trump are continuing to fight for 4 more years, storming the nation's capital to participate in dueling rallies." December 16, the National Council of the Three Percenters, original group, one of the largest three-percenter militias, issues a statement alleging that there was widespread fraud perpetrated against the American people. The statement continues, "We stand ready and are standing by to answer the call from our president should the need arise that we the people are needed to take back our country from the pure evil that is conspiring to steal our country away from the American people. We are ready to enter into battle with General Flynn leading the charge. We will not act unless we are told to. And we will not act on our own as TTPO, but rather as a united body of American patriots." December 17, Representative Paul Gosar claims that Trump won Arizona because of the alleged data theft of 700,000 votes. December 19, Trump announces the January 6 rally on Twitter. Speaking at a rally in Arizona, Ali Alexander appears to advocate for violence against Republican members of Congress who do not fight to overturn the election results. December 20, the domain name wildprotest.com is registered to host a website advertising the protest near the Capitol building from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on January 6. December 22, Oath Keepers Florida chapter leader Kelly Meggs writes on Facebook, "Trump said it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. He wants us to make it wild, that's what he's saying. He called us all to the Capitol and wants us to make it wild. Sir, yes sir. Gentlemen, we are heading to DC, pack your shit." George Papadopoulos receives presidential pardon. He would later participate in the DC events of January 5. December 23, Roger Stone receives presidential pardon. He would later participate in the DC events of January 5. December 27, President Trump promotes the January 6 rally on Twitter. December 30, President Trump again announces the date of the January 6 rally on Twitter. The domain name marchtosaveamerica.com is registered. December 31, by this date, the wildprotest.com website settles on a protest location just northeast of the Capitol building. Friday, January 1, Trump tweets the date and time of the January 6 rally. He then retweets a supporter who wrote, "The cavalry sick is coming, Mr. President. January 6, Washington, D.C., to which Trump responds, "A great honor." Saturday, January 2, 13 U.S. Senators, including Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, along with 100 Republican members of the House, vow to object to the election certification. Amy Kramer of Women for America First announces a rally at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., on January 6 starting at 7 a.m. Sunday, January 3, Trump announces that he will be at the Ellipse rally. Dustin Stockton, a former Breitbart employee helping to plan the Ellipse event, helps move speakers to the January 5 rally to make room for Trump to speak at the Ellipse rally. A 1 p.m. protest at the U.S. Capitol is added to the January 6 rally announcement on the March to Save America website. An internal Capitol Police intelligence report warns that enraged protesters flanked by white supremacists and extreme militia groups are likely to arrive in Washington armed for battle and target Congress on January 6. The National Park Service issues a permit to Rally to Revival for the January 5 rally in Freedom Plaza. The permit notes that there is no march associated with the event. Monday, January 4, Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio is arrested in D.C. and charged for burning a Black Lives Matter banner on December 12 and possession of 2 high-capacity firearm magazines that were in his possession at the time of his arrest. Tuesday, January 5, a rally is held at Freedom Plaza near the White House to protest the certification of votes making Joe Biden the President of the United States. The protest consists of a series of speakers and rallies. The first rally was the March to Save America, No Marching, from 1 to 2 p.m., Stop the Steal from 3:30 to 5 p.m., and the 80% Coalition Speak from 5 to 8:30 p.m. Thousands of election protesters and Trump supporters gather in Freedom Plaza during the morning, in advance of planned protest events. Capitol Police Chief Steven Sund holds a teleconference with top law enforcement and military officials from D.C., including the FBI, U.S. Secret Service and the National Guard. Sund later wrote no entity provided any intelligence indicating that there would be a coordinated violent attack on the United States Capitol by thousands of well-equipped armed insurrectionists. U.S. House Representative Zoe Lofgren, DCA, holds a teleconference with Capitol Police Chief Steven Sund and House Sergeant-at-Arms Paul Irving. Sund tells Lofgren that the National Guard is on standby and that Capitol Police are well-staffed and prepared for the protests. After speaking with Representative Lofgren, Sund reiterates to Representative Tim Ryan, DOH, that Capitol Police are prepared. D.C. National Guard Commanding Major General William J. Walker receives new orders stating that he must seek approval from the Secretaries of the Army and Defense before preparing to respond to a civil disturbance. Previously, he had authority to respond without first seeking permission. At least 10 people are arrested during the evening and into Wednesday morning, several on weapons charges. Federal Protective Service officers notice protesters trying to camp on federal property. Storming of the Capitol. Wednesday, January 6, 3:23 a.m., Ron Watkins, image board administrator and prominent QAnon figure, posts a tweet accusing Vice President Mike Pence of orchestrating a coup against Trump. He also linked to a blog post which called for the immediate arrest of Pence for treason. 8:17 a.m. President Trump tweets allegations of vote fraud, stating, "States want to correct their votes, which they now know were based on irregularities and fraud, plus corrupt process never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states, and we win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage." 9:45 a.m. A Federal Protective Service liaison officer informs the Capitol Police that more than the permitted 30,000 protesters are expected at the Ellipse. The Freedom Plaza permit was increased from 5,000 to 30,000, and the protest outside the Sylvan Theater is permitted for 15,000. 10:30 a.m. Benjamin Phillips splits from his group to Park, not reuniting but later dying from a stroke at George Washington University Hospital. 11 a.m. The Ellipse, located south of the White House, is filled with Trump supporters. 11:30 a.m. Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher C. Miller participates in a tabletop exercise on Department of Defense contingency response options for the D.C. protests. 12 p.m. President Trump begins his over 1-hour speech. He repeats allegations that the election was stolen, criticizing Vice President Mike Pence by name a half-dozen times, accusing fellow Republicans of not doing enough to back up his allegations, and stating that he would walk with the crowd to the Capitol, though he retires to the White House immediately after the speech. A Federal Protective Service briefing email states that there are about 300 Proud Boys at the Capitol. A man in a tree near the Ellipse is holding what looks like a rifle, and some of the 25,000 people around the White House are hiding bags in bushes. The email warns that the Proud Boys are threatening to shut down the downtown water system. 12:05 p.m. Representative Paul Gosar tweets that Biden should concede and demands his concession by the next morning. 12:20 p.m. A Federal Protective Service officer writes in an email, "POTUS is encouraging the protesters to march to Capitol grounds and continue protesting there. 12:28 p.m. A Federal Protective Service officer reports 10,000 to 15,000 people moving towards the Capitol down Pennsylvania, Constitution, and Madison Avenues. 12:30 p.m. Crowds of pro-Trump supporters gather outside the U.S. Capitol building. 12:49 p.m. Capitol Police respond to a report of a possible explosive device at the Republican National Committee headquarters, which is later identified as a pipe bomb. Shortly afterwards, a second pipe bomb is found at the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. Buildings next to these headquarters are evacuated. A police sweep of the area identifies a vehicle which held one handgun, and then 4 carbine assault rifle with loaded magazine, and components for 11 Molotov cocktails with homemade napalm. Around 6:30 p.m., the driver was apprehended carrying 2 unregistered handguns as he returned to the vehicle. He is not suspected of planting the pipe bombs. 12:53 p.m. Rioters overwhelm police along the outer perimeter west of the Capitol building, pushing aside temporary fencing. Some protesters immediately follow, while others, at least initially, remain behind and admonish the others. Don't do it. You're breaking the law. By 1:03 p.m., a vanguard of rioters have overrun 3 layers of barricades and have forced police officers to the base of the West Capitol steps. 12:57 p.m. Federal Protective Service officers report that the Capitol Police barricade on the west side of the Capitol building has been breached by a large group. 12:58 p.m. Chief Sund asks House Sergeant-at-Arms Paul D. Irving and Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Michael C. Stenger to declare an emergency and call for deployment of the National Guard. Irving and Stenger state that they will forward the request up their chains of command. Soon afterwards, aides to congressional leaders arrive in Stenger's office and are outraged to learn that he has not yet called for any reinforcement. Phone records obtained at the Senate hearings reflect that Sund first reached out to Irving to request the National Guard at 12:58 p.m. on the day of the attack. Sund then called the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms at the time, Michael Stenger, at 1:05 p.m. Sund repeated his request in a call at 1:28 p.m. and then again at 1:34 p.m., 1:39 p.m. and 1:45 p.m. that day. 1 p.m. Senators and Vice President Pence walked to the House chamber. Pence releases a letter stating that the Constitution prevents him from unilaterally interfering with the 2021 United States Electoral College vote count. U.S. Capitol Police Chief Steven Sund calls D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Conte, who deploys 100 officers to the Capitol complex, the earliest arriving within 10 minutes. 1:05 p.m. Congress meets in joint session to confirm Joe Biden's electoral victory. Acting Secretary of Defense Miller receives open-source intelligence reports of demonstrators moving towards the U.S. Capitol. 1:10 p.m. President Trump ends his speech by encouraging the crowd to march to the Capitol. We're going to try and give them, Republicans, the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. 1:12 p.m. Representative Paul Gosar, RAZ, and Senator Ted Cruz, RTX, object to certifying the votes made in the 2020 United States presidential election in Arizona. The joint session separates into House and Senate chambers to debate the objection. 1:26 p.m. The U.S. Capitol Police order evacuation of at least 2 buildings in the Capitol complex, including the Cannon House Office Building and the Madison Building of the Library of Congress. 1:30 p.m. Capitol Police are overwhelmed and forced to retreat up the steps of the Capitol. Large numbers of Trump supporters marched from the ellipse 1.5 miles down Pennsylvania Avenue toward the Capitol. 1:34 p.m. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser requests via phone that Army Secretary Ryan D. McCarthy provide an unspecified number of additional forces. 1:35 p.m. In Senate deliberations, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, RKY, warns that refusing to certify the results of the presidential election under false pretenses would push American democracy into a death spiral. 1:49 p.m. Capitol Police Chief Sund requests immediate assistance from District of Columbia National Guard, DCNG, Commander Major General William J. Walker. Major General Walker loads guardsmen onto buses in anticipation of receiving permission from the Secretary of the Army to deploy. 1:50 p.m. D.C. Metropolitan Police on-scene incident Commander Robert Glover declares a riot. 1:51 p.m. Trump supporter Alex Jones speaks from a bullhorn to the crowd on West Side exhorting them to remain peaceful and to not fight the police. He directs them to the other East Side where he claims they have a permit and to stage. Radio talk show host and former FEMA director Michael D. Brown tweets that the people breaching Capitol security are likely Antifa, Black Lives Matter protesters, or other insurgents disguised as Trump supporters, and suggests the attack could be a psychological warfare operation. 1:54 p.m. Todd Herman, guest hosting The Rush Limbaugh Show, informs his large national radio audience of Brown's claim that the people breaching security are not Trump supporters. 1:58 p.m. Along the east side of the Capitol, a much smaller police presence retreats from a different mob, removing a barrier along the northeast corner of the building. At 2 p.m. the mob removes the last barrier protecting the east side of the Capitol. 1:59 p.m. Chief Sund receives the first reports that rioters had reached the Capitol's doors and windows and were trying to break in. 2:05 p.m. Kevin Greeson is declared dead after suffering a heart attack outdoors on the Capitol grounds. 2:10 p.m. The mob west of the Capitol chased police up the steps, breaching the final barricade and approached an entrance directly below the Senate chamber. House Sergeant at Arms Irving calls Chief Sund with formal approval to request assistance from the National Guard. 2:11 p.m. Rioter Dominic Petzola breaks a window on the northwest side of the Capitol with a plastic shield. 2:12 p.m. The first rioter enters the Capitol through the broken window, opening a door for others. 2:13 p.m. Vice President Pence is removed from the Senate chamber to a nearby office. The Senate is called into recess. 2:14 p.m. Rioters chase a lone Capitol police officer up northwest stairs, where there are doors to the Senate chamber in both directions, as police inside the chamber attempt to lock doors. If the mob had arrived about a minute earlier, it would have been in sight of Vice President Pence as he was moved into an office about 100 feet from the landing. Officer Eugene Goodman leads the mob to back up in front of a set of Senate doors while senators inside attempt to evacuate. As Representative Golser speaks to the House against certifying Arizona's electoral votes, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, DCA, is removed from the chamber by her protective detail. Federal Protective Service officers report that the Capitol has been breached. 2:16 p.m. Federal Protective Service officers report that the House and Senate are being locked down. 2:20 p.m. The House adjourns and starts to evacuate. 2:22 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy has a phone call with Mayor Bowser, D.C. Deputy Mayor John Valchicchio, Director of the D.C. Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency Christopher Rodriguez, and leadership of the Metropolitan Police in which additional DCNG support is requested. 2:23 p.m. Rioters attempts to breach the police line formed by barricades of bicycle racks. As a police lieutenant sprays the crowd with a chemical substance, rioter Julian Ellicator raises his arm above the mob and sprays a chemical substance toward United States Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who dies the following day from a stroke. 2:24 p.m. President Trump tweets, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth." 2:25 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy ordered staff to prepare movement of the Emergency Reaction Force, which could be ready in 20 minutes, to the Capitol. 2:26 p.m. DC's Homeland Security Director Chris Rodriguez coordinates a conference call with Mayor Bowser, the chiefs of the Capitol Police (SUND) and Metropolitan Police (CONTI), and DCNG Maj. General Walker, as the DCNG does not report to a governor, but to the President. Maj. General Walker patched in the office of the Secretary of the Army, noting that he would need Pentagon authorization to deploy. Lieutenant General Walter E. Piatt, Director of the Army Staff, noted that the Pentagon needed Capitol Police authorization to step onto Capitol grounds. SUND began describing the breach by riders, but the call became unintelligible as multiple people began asking questions at the same time. Metro Police Chief Robert Conti asked for clarification from Capitol Police Chief SUND, Steve, "Are you requesting National Guard assistance at the Capitol?" To which Chief SUND replied, "I am making urgent, immediate request for National Guard assistance." According to SUND, Lieutenant General Piatt stated, "I don't like the visual of the National Guard standing a police line with the Capitol in the background, and that he prefer that the Guard relieve police posts around DC to allow police to deploy to the Capitol." SUND pleaded with Lieutenant General Piatt to send the Guard, but Lieutenant General Piatt stated that only Army Secretary McCarthy had the authority to approve such a request and he could not recommend that Secretary McCarthy approve the request for assistance directly to the Capitol. The DC officials were subsequently described as flabbergasted at this message. McCarthy would later state that he was not in this conference call because he was already entering a meeting with senior department leadership. Piatt contests this description of the call, denying that he talked about visuals and stating that he had stayed on the conference call while senior Defense Department officials were meeting. The Army falsely denied for 2 weeks that Lieutenant General Charles A. Flynn, the Army Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, Plans and Training, was in this call. His brother Michael Flynn, a retired Trump National Security Advisor, had pledged an oath to the QAnon conspiracy theory, though there are no indications that Lieutenant General Flynn shares his brother's beliefs. 2:26 p.m. Trump calls Senator Mike Lee, RUT, having misdialed Senator Tommy Tuberville, RAL. Lee passes his phone to Tuberville, who informs Trump that Pence had just been evacuated from the Senate chamber. "I said, Mr. President, they've taken the vice president out. They want me to get off the phone. I gotta go," he recounted to reporters of his call. 2:26 p.m. After receipt of a call from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser indicating that duty had refused to send assistance to the U.S. Capitol, the Public Safety Secretary of Virginia, Brian Moran, dispatches the Virginia State Police to the U.S. Capitol as permitted by mutual aid agreement with D.C. 2:26 Security video shows Secret Service moving VP and family to new secure location. 2:28 p.m. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund reiterates his request for National Guard support to help shore up the perimeter of the Capitol. 2:30 p.m. Secretary Miller, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley, and Army Secretary McCarthy meet to discuss Capitol Police and D.C. government requests. Shortly before this time, The Washington Times publishes a story by Rowan Scarborough falsely claiming facial recognition company XR Vision identified Antifa members among the crowd at the Capitol. The Times corrects the story the next day after BuzzFeed News reports that XR Vision threatened the Times with legal action over the story. Before the correction, the story amasses 360,000 shares and likes on Facebook. 2:38 p.m. President Trump tweets, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." 2:44 p.m. Insurrectionist Ashley Babbitt is shot by Capitol Police while attempting to force entry into the Speaker's lobby adjacent to the House chambers by climbing through a window that led to the House floor. 2:45 p.m. Federal Protective Service officers report shots fired second-floor House side inside the Capitol. 2:49 p.m. After discussion with his Chief of Staff, Clark Mercer, the Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, activates all available assets of the state of Virginia including the Virginia National Guard to aid the U.S. Capitol. Authorization from duty required for legal deployment of Virginia National Guard in D.C. was not granted. 3 p.m. Acting Defense Secretary Miller decides to deploy all available DCNG forces to reinforce Metro Police and Capitol Police as they attempt to re-establish security in the Capitol complex. Army Secretary McCarthy orders the D.C. National Guard to prepare guardsmen to move from the D.C. Armory to the Capitol complex, pending formal approval from Secretary Miller. 3:04 p.m. Secretary Miller, with advice from senior defense leadership, formally approves full activation of the 1,100 soldiers in the DCNG. Army Secretary McCarthy orders the DCNG to begin full mobilization. Most of activated guardsmen would require 2 hours to leave their jobs and homes and equip themselves at the D.C. Armory. 3:05 p.m. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, RCA, started a phone-in interview on live TV with WUSA. McCarthy said he had called the president to urge him to calm people down, and in reply the president had sent out a tweet. 3:10 p.m. Fairfax County, Virginia, Deputy County Executive Dave Rohrer informs county officials that county police are being dispatched to assist Capitol Police in response to a mutual aid request. 3:13 p.m. President Trump tweets, "I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you." 3:15 p.m. House Speaker Pelosi calls the Governor of Virginia. The Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, confirms to House Speaker Pelosi that all assets of the state of Virginia including the National Guard are being sent to aid the U.S. Capitol. First assets from Virginia begin rolling into D.C. 3:19 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy has a phone call with Senator Schumer and House Speaker Pelosi about Mayor Bowser's request. McCarthy explains that a full DCNG mobilization has been approved. 3:22 p.m. Rohrer informs Fairfax County officials that the county is suspending fire, rescue, or emergency transportation to D.C. hospitals and upgrading response in command structure. 3:26 p.m. McCarthy has a phone call with Mayor Bowser and Metro Police Chief Conti conveying that their request was not denied and that Secretary Miller has approved full activation of the DCNG. 3:32 p.m. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam orders mobilization of Virginia National Guard forces in anticipation of a request for support according to Secretary of Defense timeline. Note inconsistency with statements of Virginia Governor. Statements of Virginia Governor indicate: 1. He authorized all forces under his command to help Capitol before duty, and 2. Duty only followed after dissemination of his mobilization. 3:36 p.m. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany tweets that National Guard and other federal forces are headed to the Capitol. 3:37 p.m. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan orders mobilization of Maryland National Guard forces in anticipation of a request for support. 3:39 p.m. Arlington County, Virginia, Acting Police Chief Andy Penn informs county officials that Arlington officers are responding to the attack and have been absorbed into the Capitol Police response. 3:39 p.m. Senator Schumer implores Pentagon officials, "Tell POTUS to tweet everyone should leave." House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, DMD, wondered about calling up active duty military. 3:46 p.m. Chief of the National Guard Bureau General Daniel R. Hokanson has a phone call with Virginia Adjutant General Timothy P. Williams to discuss support to Washington, D.C. and is informed that Virginia National Guard forces have already been mobilized. 3:48 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy leaves the Pentagon for Metro Police Department headquarters in the Henry Daly Building. 3:55 p.m. General Hokanson has a phone call with Maryland Adjutant General General Timothy E. Gowan to discuss support to Washington, D.C. and is informed that Maryland National Guard forces have already been mobilized. 4:05 p.m. President-elect Biden holds a press conference calling on President Trump to demand an end to this siege. 4:08 p.m. From a secure location, Vice President Pence phoned Christopher Miller, the acting defense secretary, to confirm the Capitol was not secure and asked military leaders for a deadline for securing the building while demanding that the Capitol be cleared. 4:10 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy arrives at D.C. Metropolitan Police Department headquarters. 4:17 p.m. Trump uploads a video to his Twitter denouncing the riots, but maintaining the false claims that the election was stolen. This was one of 3 takes, with the most palatable option chosen by White House aides for distribution. In the video he says, "I know your pain, I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened where they could take it away from all of us. From me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home, and go home in peace." 4:18 p.m. Secretary Miller, General Milley, Army Secretary McCarthy, and General Hokanson discuss availability of National Guard forces located outside of the immediate D.C. metro area. Secretary Miller verbally authorizes mustering and deployment of out-of-state National Guard forces to D.C. 4:26 p.m. Roseanne Boyland is trampled to death by rioters at a Capitol tunnel entrance while police are attacked, as shown in body cam video. 4:32 p.m. Secretary Miller authorizes DCNG to conduct perimeter and clearance operations in support of the U.S. Capitol Police. 4:40 p.m. Army Secretary McCarthy has a phone call with Maryland Governor Hogan in which the governor agrees to send Maryland NG forces to D.C., expected the next day. 5:08 p.m. Army senior leaders relay to Major General Walker, the Secretary of Defense's permission to deploy the DCNG to the Capitol. 5:20 p.m. The first contingent of 155 Guard members, dressed in riot gear, began arriving at the Capitol. 5:40 p.m. 154 DCNG soldiers arrive at the Capitol complex, swear in with the Capitol Police, and begin support operations, having departed the D.C. Armory at 5:02. Around 5:40 p.m., as the interior of the Capitol is cleared of rioters, leaders of Congress state that they will continue tallying electoral votes. 5:45 p.m. Secretary Miller signs formal authorization for out-of-state National Guard to muster and deploy in support of U.S. Capitol Police. Around 5:45 p.m., police announced that Ashley Babbitt, the rioter shot inside the Capitol, has died. 6 p.m. D.C. curfew comes into effect. 6:01 p.m. President Trump tweets, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever." 6:09 p.m. Roseanne Boyland is pronounced dead at a local hospital after being trampled to death by people rushing to breach a tunnel entrance on the west side of the Capitol. 6:14 p.m. U.S. Capitol Police, D.C. Metropolitan Police, and DCNG successfully establish a perimeter on the west side of the U.S. Capitol. 6:30 p.m. Chief Son briefs Pence, Pelosi, Schumer and other members of congressional leadership on the security situation, advising that both chambers could reopen by 7:30 p.m. 7 p.m. Facebook Incorporated removes President Trump's posts from Facebook and Instagram for contributing to, rather than diminishing, the risk of ongoing violence. 7:02 p.m. Twitter removes Trump's tweets and suspends his account for 12 hours for repeated and severe violations of its civic integrity policy. 7:30 p.m. U.S. Capitol Police declare the Capitol building to be secure. 8:06 p.m. The Senate reconvenes, with Vice President Pence presiding, to continue debating the objection to the Arizona electoral count. 8:31 p.m. The Federal Protective Service issues a memo warning that an armed militia group is reportedly traveling from West Virginia to D.C. 8:36 p.m. Facebook blocks Trump's page for 24 hours. 9 p.m. Speaker Pelosi reopens the House debate. 10:15 p.m. The Senate votes 93-6 against the objection raised by a handful of Republican senators against the counting of Arizona's electoral votes. 11:30 p.m. The House votes 303-121 to reject the Republican objection to the counting of Arizona's electoral votes. Thursday, January 7, 12:15 a.m. Republican Representative Scott Perry, RPA, and Senator Josh Hawley, RMO, objected to the counting of Pennsylvania's electoral votes, triggering a 2-hour debate in both chambers. 12:55 a.m. The Senate rejects, 92-7, the objection raised by a handful of Republican senators against the counting of Pennsylvania's electoral votes. 2:20 a.m. A small number of representatives nearly have a physical confrontation in the House chamber, after Representative Conor Lamb, DPA, said the attack on the Capitol by the angry pro-Trump mob earlier in the day was inspired by lies, the same lies you are hearing in this room tonight. Representative Morgan Griffith, RVA, objected to Lamb's remarks. The objection was rejected by Speaker Pelosi. Several minutes later, members of both parties have a heated verbal discussion in the middle aisle in close proximity, breaking up when Pelosi called for order. 3:10 a.m. The House rejects, 280-138, the Republican objection against the counting of Pennsylvania's electoral votes. 3:24 a.m. After all the objections are rejected, Congress completes the counting of the electoral votes, with Biden winning, 306-232. Vice President Pence affirms the election result, formally declaring Biden the winner. Shortly after Twitter unlocked Trump's account, Trump released a video statement condemning the violence at the Capitol, saying that a new administration will be inaugurated, and that his focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power to the Biden administration. 2:30 p.m. During a televised press conference, Nancy Pelosi asks for the resignation of the U.S. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, adding, "I think Mr. Sund, he hasn't even called us since this happened." Sund submits letter of resignation that afternoon with a departure date of January 16. Both sergeant-at-arms are forced to resign as well. Around 9:30 p.m., Capitol Police Officer Brian D. Sicknick dies after suffering 2 strokes. Aftermath. Friday, January 8, 10 a.m., Chief Sund is notified by the new acting Senate Sergeant-at-Arms that his departure is to be effective January 8, not January 16 as previously agreed upon. Yogananda Pittman is sworn in as acting chief of the U.S. Capitol Police that afternoon. President Trump tweets that he will not attend Biden's inauguration ceremony on January 20. This is Trump's last tweet before his permanent ban on Twitter the same day. Twitter permanently bans Trump from its platform, citing the risk of further incitement of violence. Parler, a platform allegedly used to plan the storming, is removed from the Google Play Store after the users on the app allegedly planned further violence at the Capitol. FBI Assistant Director Stephen D'Angiuino tells reporters that there is no indication that Antifa members stormed the Capitol. Saturday, January 9th, the flag outside the Capitol building is lowered to half-staff to pay respect to Officer Sicknick, who died the day before after suffering a stroke. Citing posts that risk incitement of violence, Apple removes Parler from its App Store, stating Parler's moderation procedures toward violence-inciting speech were insufficient. For similar reasons, Amazon Web Services announces it will terminate hosting services for Parler through its cloud servers at 11:59 p.m. on January 10th. This will result in Parler's complete shutdown, unless the platform can find another hosting service before it is removed from Amazon servers. Employee group Amazon Employees for Climate Justice have called on the company to terminate web hosting of the platform unless Parler changed its moderation policies, after Amazon reported 98 instances of posts featured on Parler that clearly encourage and incite violence. Monday, January 11th, 2:59 a.m., 11:59 p.m. PST, Parler goes offline after being suspended from Amazon's cloud servers for hosting violent content. The National Guard was authorized to send up to 15,000 troops to Washington as a security measure to safeguard the Capitol. The FBI bulletin disseminated to the media reported that armed far-right pro-Trump protests were planned at all 50 state capitals and at the United States Capitol from January 17 through January 20, 2021, Joe Biden's inauguration day. Wednesday, January 13, President Trump is impeached for an unprecedented second time by the House of Representatives for the high crime of incitement of insurrection for inciting violence against the government of the United States. The Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) sends out a bulletin advising law enforcement agencies to be cautious when arresting suspects involved in the storming, especially of those who were spotted wearing body armor or other armament during the incident. Thursday, January 19, the Oregon Republican Party passes a resolution condemning the Republican House members who voted to impeach Trump that claims there is growing evidence the attack on the Capitol was a false flag operation designed to discredit Trump. Wednesday, January 20, in the inauguration of Joe Biden at the United States Capitol, former Vice President Joe Biden is sworn in as the 46th President of the United States. Senator Kamala Harris is sworn in as the 49th Vice President of the United States. Numerous members of the DCNG, the NG of surrounding states, Capitol Police, and DC Police guard the closed-off premises. Wednesday, January 27, the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department announces that a second officer present at the riot died by committing suicide. The chief also mentions that many other officers are suffering from trauma related to the riot. 3 Oathkeepers are indicted for planning with other Oathkeepers to commit violence at the Capitol on January 6. Tuesday, February 16, the New York Times updates its report about Brian Sicknick being killed with a fire extinguisher, reporting that medical experts said he did not die of blunt force trauma. Friday, February 19, 6 additional Oathkeepers are indicted for conspiring to commit violence at the Capitol. Monday, April 19, the Washington, D.C. Medical Examiner's Office announced its finding that Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick had died from stroke, classifying his death as natural, with Sicknick's autopsy producing neither evidence of internal or external injuries, nor evidence of allergic reaction to chemical irritants. References. External links: U.S. Capitol stormed, collected news and commentary. BBC News Online. Save America rally speeches, video. FBI seeking information related to violent activity at the U.S. Capitol building archive January 25, 2021, at the Wayback Machine. FBI how presidential rally turned into a Capitol rampage. New York Times visual investigations timeline with photo and video support.